Over the past 30 years, I've been devoting my life to animal rescues in the south of England.
If this booth collapses, we're both going to be in mighty big trouble.
Never has British wildlife been more under threat.
Run, Alex. He's going to slip.
People and animals are increasingly coming into conflict.
This is within a mile of the M25.
Bastards! Oh, it was close.
After 16 years of Wildlife SOS on the television, this is our first ever series of Wildlife SOS online. In this episode of Wildlife SOS, we get called out to our second Badger Cub of the year.
It is so bad, we haven't got any time to mess around now. We've got to try to get him back in the land of the living as quickly as we possibly can.
And a fox cub with a horrific leg injury is brought into the centre.
It's actually fractured right on the knee joint, and there's a part of the bone that's sticking out the back of the leg.
Work here at Wildlife Aid is never ending, but the quietness of the centre at midnight gives me time to reflect on the cygnet.
If you'd seen him as I did last night when he came back from his op, Lucy was in pieces about it, and I was really, really worried because you always wonder whether you've done the right thing. He looked terrible, but he'd just gone through a very major op. I mean, it's an op that would have cost probably £2,000. And the vet did it for nothing. He's one of the best avian vets in the country and was a really nice guy. But looking at him last night, I just wonder whether we'd done the right thing. So all horrible last night, went to bed, really didn't sleep at all. And when I went in this morning at 6:30, and in fear and trepidation, I opened the door and there's a big as I walked in, which is a really good sign. It was so lovely to hear him up and hissing and angry. It looks pretty full on, it looks pretty sort of vicious what's happened to him. But if you think at the end of this, he should have a beak that's straight and he can go back out to the wild properly and spend the next 15 or 20 years being a swan, which is what it's all about. Right, let's go and see if he's still doing well. How are you doing, little one? Are you going to give it? No, I'm not going to. Yes, I'm going to give you a hiss now because I'm cropped. Yeah, we're scared of you too. Now let's clear some of your towel. Look at the mess you've made of this lot, you turkey. Hey, what a mess you've made of that lot.
Right, well, the feeding tube around his neck, which is very loose on a bandage, goes straight down into his stomach. We're just going to clear that with a ml of fluid to make sure that that's clear, which we've done. And we give him quite slowly the 15 mils of this very high concentration diet. It's the easiest way of eating ever, isn't it? You haven't got to have any effort. It's going straight down into your stomach to make you a big, strong cygnet. We know it's all going through and working because he's pooing well. All the food's gone in now. We're just going to clean this line out with another couple of mils of saline to make sure that the tube doesn't block.
He's going to be a worry. He's not out of the woods yet. It's not over. But he's on the road to being a swan that can fend for himself in the wild. Looks hardcore at the moment, but when it all comes out and we've done our job, he gets his second chance, which is what it's all about. And he's handling it very well, and the stress of being quite so near humans and away from his mum and dad and his siblings is sad, but without us, he would have died. Well, it's been a very long 48 hours for the cygnet, and it feels like way over 48 hours for us. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. That's his last feed for the night. I'll be back in here at 6 o'clock in the morning to give him his first morning feed. But I'm just so pleased to see him so bright after how he looked when he came through the op. It's just amazing for us to see him looking so good. So it's time now. Time will tell him. He'll be fine.
As the sun rises again over the Wildlife Aid Foundation Centre, I get an urgent call that I've been anticipating for some time.
We've just had a call from a lady in Reigate who picked up a baby badger cub this morning. She thought it was dead. She's taken it back to her stables and it's showing signs of life. For us, this is a real two-edged sword because although I hate to have to take animals in, this is obviously in trouble. We have our first badger cub who ideally needs to be with his own species, so to have two
would be far better than having one, and obviously it would be the beginning of our own group that we have this year. Most years we end up with about 20 badger cubs that we put out back to the wild. So this is just the beginning really, providing this one is not too collapsed and we can pull him through the first 72 hours, which are going to be absolutely critical.
Hey, little one.
And my neighbour was walking her dog, and some people that were walking the North Downs Way had found him. I'm
Right.
not quite sure where they found him, but the three of us all thought he was dead because he was just cold and he wasn't moving, no response.
He's very pale, you'll have to go on a
Nothing
drip.
at all, so
Super.
I hope he makes it.
Okay, thank you very much for your help. We'll get him home. Come on, let's get you back. Let's get you back and get you on a drip. It's me, how you doing? I've got a very, very, very sickly badger cub with me, really looking terrible.
Okay, we'll get all of that all sorted and see you soon.
Okay, see you as quick as I can. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
No, I was going to do that as a nice little surprise and walk in with it because I knew she'd be delighted to see it, but it is so bad. We haven't got any time to mess around now. We've got to try to get him back in the land of the living as quickly as we possibly can. I was hoping to surprise you with this as good news, but he's so collapsed and so bad that I had to ring ahead and warn you.
I haven't heard anything.
They found him at 9, they thought he was dead, they put him in the stables.
I'm just going to take his temperature, and he feels really cold. I think the first thing we've got to do is warm him up. His temperature's not even registering on the thermometer. We've got to warm you up first, little one, little girl.
Lucy checks her over, and fortunately she hasn't got any injuries or obvious problems, other than a few ticks and being fairly dehydrated. Although it's always so tempting to get fluids into an animal right away, it's not safe to do this until we can raise the cub's core temperature. So frustratingly, all we can do is sit back and wait while she warms up in an incubator.
Well, this is now a very nerve-wracking time. We're waiting for the badger to warm up to see whether it shows any sign of wanting to eat or any sort of encouragement at all. But while that's all been going on, Lucy just had a fox cub come in, which she needs to assess and have a look at very quickly.
It's actually fractured right on the knee joint, and there's a part of the bone that's sticking out the back of the leg. Even though the people have found her in the road, this isn't a road accident. Well, if it was, it's not from today. I think she's just got to the end of what her body can do. She can't keep going anymore. And sadly, there's very little you can do for any kind of wound like that. That's horrific. The kindest thing to do is to let her go. It's horrible. She hasn't even had a chance.
After a while in the incubator, it's now the moment of truth to see if our latest little badger cub is going to show signs of wanting to survive.
Come on, little one. Lucy's going to work on one end and I'm going to work on the other. I'll work on the food end. Come on, I know. Time. Good girl. Oh, don't eat me, come on. Just shows their tenacity for life because she's really sucking on lactate and honey mix just to try to get her a little bit more hydrated. And then I think the next feed we can probably even try milk and AD. I'm tempted if she perks up and keeps perking up like this during the afternoon to put her in with ours. It'll be comfort
That's what
for
I
her.
was thinking.
We'll take the fox cub out. The way she's eating by herself, she might even out eat ours.
Yeah, I mean, even our one wasn't as good as that to start with eating.
Well, she's desperate. There must have been a good 200 mils in there. And she's had probably at least half of it. She hasn't lost a drop very much, to be honest. Oh, they're so desperate for something to eat.
You can't have any more, you'll be sick if you have any more. So she's had some fluids now and she's nice and warm. We're just going to let her sleep that off a little bit. It's also very frightening, so just let her settle down a little bit first. Then I'm going to try taking the ticks off her feet, give her a bit of flea treatment, try with a bit of food, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll introduce her to our boy.
Watch the next episode of Wildlife SOS to see if our first badger cub finally has another badger to grow up with.